Septenary. So today we're going to be going over the Septenary, what it means, what it is, who is, and where it is found. Before we get started, I do want to thank my wifey Boo for going out and getting, when I told her I was going to be making videos following a whiteboard, she went and got me some brand new markers. And not only that, she got me a magnetic wiper. Look at that. So I can wipe from a magnet. I can just grab the magnet off the board and it'll wipe. So first shout out goes out to wifey Boo. Thank you and I love you. You know, it's very seldom these days that you have relationships where we have a understanding to love one another, to get one another, to not only provide for their needs, but to know when they do need. And this is something that I think I was blessed having, because not too many people that I know have been in relationships where their significant other has a great observant organ, let's just say, to understand the need of their significant other. So with that, I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate. And to my wife, from the bottom of my heart, I love you. Thank you for always being there, for always posting me on Facebook, even though I don't touch Facebook. And the reason for that is because I just don't like the government prying into what I'm up to. And sometimes I feel like this kind of teaching metaphysics can lead to that, and I'll explain to you why. Now, the stuff that we're touching on is they call holistic, or even pseudoscience they call it. And now I'm starting to see anything that has to do with curing yourself they call homeopathic. Well, homie here is not no homeopathic. I'm not a homeo nothing. So just check this out. So everything that we're getting into is learning the true self. Everything that they don't teach you in school. And the reason why I say that is because when we're out learning mathematics and how to write English and volleyball and playing tag or whatever it is we did in school, we were totally missing out on an opportunity to build the spiritual you, the person that you are becoming into. And what happens afterwards when you become an adult to prepare you for the world. Yeah, okay, I get they taught us how to count, how to learn, how to speak in some schools, and some other schools are not so good. But got my coffee this time. But what I'm talking about is the more important you that we're looking for, and that you is the person that when you're done living your earthly life, where you are headed to when you're done with this earthly life. And they don't tell you anything. In fact, they do all that they can to avoid speaking about it. And the teachers that they have, you know, at that time when I was going to school, were minimum wage teachers, definitely weren't qualified to explain any of that. And well, some of them were barely qualified to teach, though I'm thankful for the opportunities to learn that I did get when I was in class. But here we are today, and of all places to learn. And if you're not learning, at least you're sparking the thought for yourself to investigate on your own. With this lovely word here that I don't know if any of you ever heard. If you're a syncretist, you might have used it. But the word is septenary. And what this entails is a sevenfold entity. So what we want to go ahead and reflect on first is who these invisible seven or septenary are. And what I mean by that is that what we were also not taught when I was explaining that is that we're also taught to refrain from even looking into anything that has to do with invisibility, something that they can't explain by touching it or by feeling it. But at the same time, when you're in need of hope or to find some kind of reason for living, they expect you to fight and look for a love, like we're talking about, an understanding of some kind of godly entity to pray to hope, to find some kind of vicarious savior that's gonna save you no matter what, for the very low price of whatever at the churches that now use probably 10 collection plates, so you're not dropping any change in it, and that echo throughout the cathedral or wherever church, that they kind of basically also once again deter you from finding or investigating what that invisible whatever it is. So today we're here to speak about the Septenary, and I did take a few notes this time on some topics that we can touch on, and very kind of vaguely I'm going to go through this, but it seems like a lot of symbolism of the churches and religion they use as tutelary for teaching. So the cross is one of them. We make references to angels, to characters, Jesus, but a lot of that goes back to the ancients, who used to use a lot of this not for worship, which is the big misconception, that they used these crosses and stuff for some kind of worshiping of the sun or whatever. They always used the sun as a symbol to kind of remind people of what the whole purpose we're here to do is. And so I've been finding that when you go to church, they temporarily increase this strength. They kind of give you a short boost of energy for this type of love to find, to give, to face your fears, to give a sympathetic care to you for just that temporary moment. But what I'm finding now is that it's really up to us. It's up to you. I was following the Jehovah's Witnesses for a while, and it just seems like once I was doing that, you were just kind of putting everything on them. And when you do that, you're not really facing anything yourself. You're not building a true love or a passion to want to serve God. You're just doing it because you feel like it's the right thing to do, and it's going to help you get to that point B. Well, here I'm going to teach you that you can build that on your own, because I'm telling you this because in school they don't tell you that when you're done living this life, we're not living in a flesh body. Your body goes back into the earth, and with that, your soul body, that internal you that wakes up every morning and says, "Here I am," goes back up to where it came from. And what is that exactly? Well, the Egyptians tend to break that down into 7 souls, 7 spirits of your soul, or 7 components of your soul. And I do have the names of those too. But before we get into that, let's speak about what we talked about last week, or last couple weeks ago, and that was, we were getting into the here, I can write this down. Thank you, wifey. Got some brand new markers right here too. So we got triad, or ternary, or whatever you want to call it, the spiritual triad, and we got, so we're going to use red and blue and black. We'll get into green in a minute. So we'll use for the ternary, or tenery, whatever you want to call it, the triad, we're going to use the Spiritual Triad. So this is going to be, we'll put Spirit. Ooh, that looks good. And this is going to be, we'll do dot, line, and circle. So this dot, that is you. The line is when you begin to make that motion towards building your spirit. And this is when you have become full circle, or you've been glowing or gloating into that spirit. So when you're learning to use that spirit, this is us in full motion. So you become that with the line and the dot. And I like to also call that the Israel. So that would be the Isis, the Ra, and the L. So this would be the proton, the radius, or the proton, the electron, and the neutron. So the neutron would definitely be at the center. The proton, who keeps the line going, and the electron would be the whole outside, the whole thing would be the electron. So we'll put the L here, and then the proton is the line that's in motion, the fire, the drive. Isis is the mother, of course, so we'll put mother. Father, I'm sorry, this is sloppy. I'm trying to write and the board is moving in the sun. Damn, that's sloppy. What we got there is the triad. Or I know Santos likes to call it the frequency, vibration, and I can't remember the other one right now. But we'll put and then if you've seen the last episode that I've done, I had used towards the end of the video, there's a diagram I put together for the Spiritual Triad, and you'll see in the background, I don't know, it's pretty faint, but there's three triangles, there's a triangle, but there's three squares at different sizes. It looks something like this. Well, this is the Spiritual Triad that these three deities use to build the spirit inside here. So that's who the spirit is right there. This is who is affected in this small family of squares. So the mother ooh, that's ugly. So the way this works is there's, man, that's terrible. Hopefully we can fast forward this. And then so they call this the 3, 4, and 5 square. And the way they try to explain the story of the spirit is that it's usually in a trinity form. And India, they use it and they say that these are the three, or the one creator who is in three, that build the universe, the cosmos. And that was Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Beginning, middle, and end, or birth, growth, and decay. And that is where the spirit came from. And he too is a three-figured body, or a three-headed body, and they together make the one God. And just like a family, the mother, father, and child, when together, they're a unit. They're not looked upon as just the mother. Oh, here comes just the mother. No, they say here comes the family. They move in a unit, in uniform. And then after that, we got here, we'll put the elements that make up the physical form of the spirit. So we'll put elements. And then we'll put 3 in the spirit. So together with this, you get the 7. You got, let's see. So here is the symbol, the hieroglyph for fire. This is the glyph for water. Air, earth, or mineral. This is essentially what builds you. You are essentially made of all. Jeez, that is horrible. I got horrendous handwriting on this board. It's just because this board is flopping around. And the way your soul descends into this earth, you are using these 7. Back again. Okay, so batteries died. Yeah. Oh, let me pick up where we left off. So if you can get your magnifying glasses and you look here on my board, there's 3 components to the spirit, 4 components to the elements. And we were saying how the Egyptians had broken down that there's 7 parts to the soul descending to the earth. And we're saying when the spirit descends, when you're immediately born here to the earth, you're automatically decaying, and you have to return that spirit back up to the heavens. And so same thing with the body of your human form, that returns back to the earth. But we were saying that they don't teach you this in school. So what we're doing is we're going over one by one how it works and what it does. And they call these in the Bible the Elohim. They're the 7 artificers. They are the artisans who created the heavens. In the Zohar, the Jewish Bible, they said that the earth or the universe was created in 7 days. We also hear in Islam the story of Muhammad when he has his, they call it the Knight's Journey. That story called the Knight's Journey, he's ascending through 7 planes of the universe. And he eventually is quite surprised that he's met, being Islam, at the top of the heavens with Jesus, or the Christ, I'm sorry, not Jesus. So through, also with Saint John and his revelation, he's also brought through the seven planes, and he also establishes 7 churches. They call it the 7 churches of Ephesus, or of Asia. I put those in the first video. If you kind of scroll through or go through the whole video, towards the end you'll see a diagram pop up with the 7 schools that he had taught. Let's see, who else is... When Buddha was born, he was born with the... Oh no, that was Confucius. When Confucius was born, he had the 7... They call them the Qiling and the wise men. So there was 5 wise men and the sun and moon. So the 5 wise men were the 5 planets, of course, and the sun and moon were present. Just like the sun and moon in Freemasonry, they represent the checkerboard floors of day and night. That's what that entails. If you need help with that, or you don't believe me, go ahead and do your own research. I always suggest not to go through Google, but if you must, you might find something good through Google. The 7 planes that we're going to make a diagram of, well, back to recap real quick. We see the 3, 4, 5 triangle, or the 3, 4, 5 triangle, or the 47th problem of Euclid, or we like to know now that it's Pythagoras who originally came up with that. There, when you put those 3 squares together, you'll get a triangle in the center. That offset triangle is what we were saying represents the unity of the Trinity. So one unit, but 3 angles to represent its components. The 4 elements we know here also have a representation. So we like to know that the fire there, that gives the drive, the action. Water represents the emotions. Air is intellect, so that your mental thought comes through intellect. Earth, of course, is the mineral that gives life to these here. So it's essentially the spirit, but with earth added at the bottom. All of these have at their in the representations a certain number. Like you have, let's just say, a duality between positive and negative. Well, you're going to have a third component there, and that would be whatever it is that's positive and negative. So that's just how these work. The triad here is actually a duality, father and mother, but the third component would be the sun that is made through that. Just like here, the 4 elements, they have fire, water, air, and all encapsulated into the earth. Well, that also, when you go into the five meanings of this, the 5 koshas, the 5 elements, technically, they don't put on the element chart ether, but that is what encapsulates earth, fire, water, and air in all of those into one. So now we're getting into a little deeper of conversation, because we're wanting to know who the Septenary is and what they represent. So in the Bible, the Septenary is called the Elohim. In Genesis 1:19, it says that man is to be made in our image. And when they say our image, they're talking about the multiple facets or aspects of God. So just like we learned that the 7 days were how long it took for them to build the universe, it took also 7 components to do so. These are not just 7 days of the week, because you would know, well, if there was no sun, how could there be a day? This represents ages or levels that it took. So a day doesn't necessarily, in this case, mean a day of daylight, of 24 hours and 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night kind of day. This means that it took a day, or a deity. So remember, day is D-E-I. That's a deity, a god. So these are the 7 artisans, or the 7 Elohim, or Elokime, that we said we were going to pronounce it as, because now we're using it together as a spiritual group. So now we're wanting to get spiritual here, and everything we do on this channel is going to be of a spiritual nature. What I really want to do, though, is show you how the spirit descends into the 4 elements. So Macrobius was one of the good philosophers. He broke down in a lot of his poetry and research how the spirit comes down into matter, and you're basically born as a human with both heaven and earthly qualities. So he talks about how the soul descends down through the 7 planets. So the reason why I left the 7 planets out is because I wanted to go over them separately out of the 2 videos. So we're going to make this 3rd video mostly about that and what their qualities represent here. So Pythagoras also uses the map of Earth, or the map of the Earth, the map of the universe, as putting like a target-like diagram of the universe, and these are like almost like ripples in like a drop of water, and they're like rings of a target to the center, and Earth was always put at the center. That is why Earth's glyph in astrology is a circle with a cross in it like this. Now the reason why it's like that is because these represent the quarters of the year, the 4 seasons. You have spring, which is represented with Aries. You have Leo represents the summertime. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not. That's totally incorrect. So it's Aries, Cancer, summertime. Autumn would be, nope, I'm doing the fixed stars. Autumn would be Libra. These 2 are opposites of each other, just like Capricorn and Cancer are going to be opposites of each other. So these form the cross. How so, Drew? Well, let me explain to you. So these 4 guys here, let me make this bigger so you can see it. So Aries represents the spring, the opening of the year. This is what they call in the Jewish holidays the month of Nisan, where they have Passover, where that is the first full moon of the year. So we'll do Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So this represents the 4 seasons of the year. We learn through these 4 seasons that the sun is doing four things, 4 motions here. And the sun in springtime is when the sun is at its softest point. But this also produces an Aries temperament in people. So I haven't showed you my Aries temperament, but I definitely got one. Here is autumn. And here is winter. So in the springtime is basically rebirth. Everything's green, the foliage is full of flowers, blossoms. Summertime is when the sun is at its highest point, but then again it starts to wane down. The sun is waning here in the Cancer sign. So Leo is the sign because it's always hot in the month of Leo, but the actual energy of the sun starts to decline in Cancer. And you will see that the 2 signs, or the 2 glyphs that they show for Cancer, is the sun doing 2 motions, and it's showing it here as a decline motion and an incline motion. The 6th part is in the summertime, where it's starting to go downward here, and in the winter time the sun is starting to grow again. So there's no question that autumn is different than summertime because the leaves start to fall. This autumn is also atum, the word that Egyptians and one person that we know in secretism likes to use. His name is Santo Bonacci. Always uses all as atum. That is on him. He has a whole philosophy behind Atum. If you watch any of his older videos, you can find a lot out of Atum. Wintertime, this is when the goats climbs the mountains, or they have here in the glyph, it's actually a sea goat. So it's the goat glyph with fish legs. Yeah, I know, it sounds weird. Now they have a corresponding glyph in the Aztec calendar. It is the Cipacli, that is the sea monster. And what's funny is there is a correlation with that in the Narwhal. The Narwhal is a unicorn-like sea mammal, I guess you can call it. And it has a tooth protruding through the middle of his forehead. And it's similar to a unicorn. But that is a sea monster. And they say that the ancient Aztecs came from a land called Tula. Now Tula is a phallic symbol in India, and Tula also means strong in, like, I don't want to say the Russian language, but the maybe Turkic language. I think it means strong. And Tula was a town in Grand Tartary, so we're talking about the Aztecs actually descended from Tartarian descent. This is no question here, and I feel like if you do extensive research on Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan, whatever you want to call him, he is of Scythian descent, and he is, they call him the first king of Tartary. Well, that's because he was Scythian, but he was the king of Tartary, so Tartaria. But this doesn't mean that the Mongolians were actually of Mongolian descent. Kind of like a river that passes through a country. We call it, here in Las Vegas, they have the Colorado River, but there's nobody here from Colorado. I mean, there is people here from Colorado, but it comes from Colorado. It's not a Colorado River. Now, I know that's kind of clunky to explain what we're trying to explain, but the country of Mongolia has only been Mongolian for about almost 200 years now. And the people who originally lived in Mongolia were of a mostly, well, see, this can get controversial because a lot of the Turkic people like to claim that it was a Turkic race, but also the Iranian people would like to say that it was an Iranian like type race. And I believe it was the both. I believe there was a many of both people there, because the Tartarian army were of a mostly built up of Turkic warriors, but they were, I want to say, ran at the elite team of that Mongol or Mogul army. They were mostly Iranian people also. So if you read Mystery of the Christos Epopteia of the 144,000, there's a chapter I put mostly on Tartaria, and it is extensive. It was the longest chapter for me to write because I had to go ham from cover to cover on a lot of books. What we're getting back into, though, is the astrology and the account of the 4 seasons in Earth and the motion that the sun does. So it waxes and wanes through a series of 365 days, 23 hours, and I think, I want to say 30 seconds. Okay, now back to this. So at the bottom of the glyph, that Pythagoras, mind you, Pythagoras used this diagram before anybody else. Ptolemy did use it, but Ptolemy claims that he got a lot of his work from Pythagoras. So we're gonna use that. If you don't like my claims, please look it up. So here at the bottom, we're gonna have Earth as the Earth glyph there. The second ring is the moon. A third is going to be Mercury. My little brother used to think that he would tell my mom that this is demonic, or the occult is a cult itself. but it's these are just the glyphs here that represent these characters, and we're gonna go ahead and go through all of them too. So here we have Earth, Moon, and then Venus. If you understand Venus, you'll know that it's also the symbol of the Ankh. The Egyptian Ankh is also the decussate cross. Alright, and then this was also a ruler to measure out the inundation of the Nile River. If they were getting a good amount of water, they would see just the line here above the cross. So this would make for a good year, that they were not flooding and that they were not in a drought. So anything below that line was a drought, and if the water was going above that ring there, then they were flooding. So they call that the Nilotic River, or the Nilotic level. Then after that we have, let's see, the sun. And so Pythagoras used he basically drew a cord that came from the earth to the top of the universe. And we're running out of room here, so I'm going to have to draw a little bit smaller. And so that's Saturn, that's Jupiter, that's Mars, that's Earth, that's Venus, Mercury, Moon, Earth. Okay, so after this you can draw your own conclusions. They call this geocentric. It's, I guess if you want to call it the stationary Earth, or Earth-centered map, or azimuthal, it's the same thing. These basically explain how Macrobius says that your soul descends from here, Saturn. So it doesn't mean that you pass through Saturn, the actual planet. It means that these are energies that are bestowed into your earthly body, and they impress themselves onto the spiritual body within. So here you have, these are also called the Rings of Saturn. So Saturn is the Lord of the Rings, kind of like that movie, but not fiction. So these are the Rings of Saturn, all underneath here. Saturn in the last video is who? It's Chronos. Very good, so you're paying attention. So Chronos is time. And then Horus, we were saying Zeus is the hero here, who has his brothers and sisters freed up from Chronos. This is Mars, also called Aries or Aries. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this would be Horus, also who is Aries. Aries and Aries. It's almost the same name, but I'm just putting two and two together here. This is the sun, of course. The sun is the monochord of the chords that Pythagoras made. He created the map of the universe in these targets. So picture this as a big giant sphere here, and these are going down in like rings to make a full circle. That is a horrible circle. Let's picture this as a big target like diagram. There's been many other. The reason why Copernicus has his diagram in schools and taught in everywhere else is because it was the easiest to remember. This, I believe, is how the Earth is actually in shaped like, because it's, I mean, if you study astrology, this would be basic to learn. It seems complicated only because it seems like they made it complicated on purpose. So you wouldn't be able to, like I said, to learn this in school. But if you did, you would have this down by now. Basically, Sun is fourth from the top and fourth from the bottom, because he is the monochord. He's the fifth in line. And Macrobia says that your soul descends through the rings of Saturn, and from there you pick up a prudence, a way to understand time, to be patient with people. From Jupiter you learn justice. Remember, we said that Zeus was one who gave law to time. So you'll see Zeus's symbol here. It's that Z, that's a thunderbolt, and that is Zeus standing there. Here is Mars. For Mars, you're bestowed the strength to fight, to be strong, to deal with time, to face your fears, to face your enemies, whatever it may be. From there, you get the Sun, which is basically everything spiritual, everything loving. It's the soul. It's the soul center. So remember, in Israel, that's IRS. It's backwards. Israel. The Sun is Ra, Atum Ra of the Egyptians. It is the center. He is between the mother and son. They chose that name on purpose. So Ra is everything that is beautiful, that is bright, and he is the one that all of these are dispensed through. The light is dispersed through the sun. It disseminates the... Okay, well, ran out of film, and we're back again nonetheless. So what I wanted to say, though, before we get into this again, is that the Asiatic light that is dispersed through the sun is an influx of all seven. Is an influx of all of them. I didn't get a chance to go through Venus, but Venus bestows love and beauty and charity. So that is not just like the sun kind of love, but it's the love that you get when you want to help somebody, the charity. Mercury is education, and it disperses wanting to learn, to get your hands down in the dirt and figure it out, to put things together. And then the moon is your imagination. It's everything emotional that you feel. It's emotion. And then Earth is what encapsulates all of those. And then when the soul reaches the atmosphere of the moon, it becomes heavy, and it's drunk off of the humidity air from the atmosphere of the Earth, and it drops it down into a womb of the mother. So you're a few days from coming out. So remember, I said that there's 7 parts of the soul from the Egyptians that said there's 7 actual components, aspects. So basically, when you die, your body is dropped back into the earth, but your soul body is now 7 selves of you, and their aspects, and they can be in every direction. They're all over the place. If say like I die tomorrow, well, there's 7 of me in 7 different areas. So I got myself in heaven, then I can be here with you, and then there's the 5 other ones. It could be learning something else that I didn't learn. Then you got the other self that can be impressed through ancestry. There's another one that can be there's many parts of that soul. So basically, the way your soul is, we'll just call this the Paramatman. The Paramatman. Alright. Then we have, let's see here, the same trinity that we used earlier. So this would be the, let's see, Adi. So this is the Trinity, and this is basically Israel, the spirit, soul, and body of the spirit. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but that is you. They are in a, we're just going to put in a, I'm putting it in a triangle so it's easy to remember, but this is you as a whole, but with the spirit inside you before you are of earth form. So we're going to put the cross here, and this will be the link that crosses into Manas. The Manas is the earth, or going into the earth like matter. So we'll say this would be here, the earth. So you have Israel, or the Adi, or Atman, or Buddha, or the Atman, Buddha, and Adi together in the triangle form, and this would be the actual Buddha or Buddhi, and in Egyptian they call this the Puta, which corresponds to the Bodhi that descends here into the matter, the sphere of matter, or the plane of materialistic realm. So the Manas is the receptacle of the four angles. So you have to think. You're becoming human now when you're able to think. To feel is one of the senses. To grow. And to exist or subsist, to continue to survive. So this is you coming down into human form. This is the link that brings you down the ladder. So Jacob's ladder in the Bible is actually the 7 degrees of the spirit that comes down, descending into human form. So everything we just discussed is basically your spirit self coming down from spirit crossing into matter. And now you're under the government of the sun. So the sun is the ruler, and now you are the prince of the earth. Melchizedek is one of the characters of the Bible they don't really discuss. He's kind of mysterious, but that is who you are. You are basically the king and the priest. What Melchizedek even really means is that it means the king priest, but it is you. It is somebody who has both spiritual and earthly qualities, and that you're here to think, to feel, to grow, and to subsist, to be a wise human. You take all that in, you build it up, and you become you. And now you're able to go to heaven and dwell in the soul body that here you're going to leave behind. In the Hindu mythology, they like to use the story of what was I going to say? Anyway, so all the stories are based. Buddha is the same way too. I was going to say the Brahmic egg. So you're leaving behind the shell you come out of, and you basically grow into. So Brahma is actually Vishnu and Mahesh. He's all of them, or Vishnu and Shiva, whatever you want to call it. But he's aspects. Those are aspects of him. Just like you are Brahma, and you have several different aspects. So you are learning to become a spirit yourself. So there's a saying that a lot of the alchemists and philosophers used to say, and that was in 3 spheres that we are who we are, and you exist now in earthly form, but you also now exist in spirit form. So your thoughts and your dreams, your ideas, those are tethered to the universe by God and by the planets that you come from. So next couple weeks we'll go ahead and get into astrology, and that doesn't entail the future or fortune or any of that garbage you see on TV with those kind of like, you know, comedic looking astrologers, or like the amazing Kreskin. We're talking that astrology basically gives life to who your character is. It kind of basically tells you who you're going to be and what you're going to be as. It doesn't necessarily tell the future, although if you're good enough at astrology, you pretty much could tell the future. But this is just your destiny to know thyself. What Socrates had put in on top of their school, their university. But here we want to just kind of give a basic notion of what all this entails. I did want to go over a few other things, but like I said, this rarely ever happens that I get to go through all the stuff that I wanted to go through. But the forms that you go through human form is the 4 kingdoms. So I didn't get to put that with the 4 elements, but it's human, animal, plant, and mineral kingdoms. So these are all the existences you reincarnate into before becoming the angel form. The angel meaning angel or angelic form of the heavenly plane. And Pythagoras used to use the heavens to describe 3 different things when he would say heaven, or he would mention it. And those 3 things were, 1 was the place where you originated from, 2 would be the place or the space existing between Moon and Saturn, and also basically where God dwells, the abode of the heavens. So we are going back there. This is just to help remind you how to find it. So this is all confusing at first, but like I said, you have any questions and we'll go over it again. Or if you have any, if you're confused about any of it, you just let me know and we'll go over it. I'm available through email and comment, and I do check it pretty often. But I understand this is some pretty deep stuff and it's pretty hard to explain, but we want to make this as clear as possible. So whenever you guys do have the questions that pop up in your brain, let me know and we'll go over it. Until then, refer to the book, Mystery of the Christos Epopteia of 144,000. Namaste, homies. Peace.